Welcome everyone to the Southern California Women's Caucus for Arts third Thursday Artist Talk. And tonight we're going to enjoy presentation by Eva Montealegre and of the beautiful name and the wonderful art. And I'm going to introduce her. This is her bio that she shared with us. Her painting career emerged under the tutelage of abstract painter Robert Kingston at Pierce College, where she graduated with honors in graphic arts. Since, her work has exhibited widely at many California galleries, including Adagio Gallery on El Paseo Drive in Palm Desert, Bluebird Art House, Modern Art Gallery on Wilshire Boulevard, and in 2023 with the Association of Hysteric Curators, Goddesses, and Monsters. I love that. In the Bendix Building in Los Angeles, and in the Planetary Art Exhibit at the Kuiper Space Building in Tucson, Arizona. She is a recipient of much recognition, including a Certificate of Excellence from the Mayor of West Hollywood 2023 and the Puffin Foundation Grant in 2014. 2015, she was included in the prestigious Latina Art Initiative founded by Linda Vallejo. She continues to challenge the medium with her sculptural palette knife and mixed media paintings featuring the animal-human psyche from its inner depths to the outer reaches of the cosmos. Her range of ancient ancestral vocabulary to modern-day theories often includes cave drawings and scientific diagrams. It's a juxtaposed narrative in her quest to pierce the mysteries of our collective psyche. And with that, I invite Eva Montealegre to please take it away.
So that's me, Eva Montealegre. I live up on top of a mountain, on the peak of a mountain, actually, and I'm kind of a nature nut. And so that's a picture of me lying down on the ground. I want to do that. I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. I spent most of my childhood on the River Queen, my dad's restaurant, which was on a very famous gambling boat. And it featured elegant dining, New Orleans cuisine, and basically the best music north of New Orleans. But at home, my father was an artist, and he asked me to model for him sitting on a chair from a very young age, I think like 4 or 5. And to keep me still, he would explain everything he was doing. He'd go, okay, now I'm doing your bangs. Now I'm going to do your eyebrows. I'm going to use these, and I learned to listen by him explaining everything and try to comprehend why this was so important to him to do this drawing. As I got older, he was so used to explaining things to me and talking to me, and we had that sort of relationship, and I had become a pretty good listener, which everybody in the world likes to be listened to. Because of that, he allowed me to design the menu and the interior of his new restaurant after his success with the River Queen. And it was called the Viking. It was in Kirkwood, and Kirkwood was a very progressive area of St. Louis. Both of the restaurants were written up with favorable reviews in Esquire magazine. And eventually, as his employee, I was the first girl to take on the shack boy job, which was a very, required a lot of strength. He had to carry giant boxes of ice and giant log curtains and big trays of, bread and milk and salads. And anyway, he finally changed the name to the Pantry Girl because he didn't want people calling me the Shack Girl. But both the Viking Lounge and the River Queen Lounge rivaled the St. Louis Playboy Club. And instead of bunnies, the women were dressed as Vikings. And the whole place in the Viking restaurant was set up to look like a very comfortable but glamorous Viking lodge. And that was just such a wonderful environment. So even though the women were very sexy in the lounge part of the restaurant, they looked very powerful. And I think that was better for my psyche than, something like little bunnies and bunny rabbits with bunny tails and ears. And so I didn't have such a negative uh, association with the idea of being a woman, a vibrant woman. Later in my life, my father became a very successful stone sculptor in the Ozarks. He left the restaurant business, and he sold his work to governors and other celebrity types. He made a very good living doing that for many years. And when I wasn't with him, I was in libraries with my mom, who was an investigative journalist and award-winning poet. And her style of investigation was to become informed in every possible way through reference books, microfiche, photo archives. And after all that, she would turn to me and say, now we go for the horse's mouth. And then we would go interview people in person, and she would drag me everywhere. We would go and talk to anyone. She was just like, no doors seemed to be closed to her. And every day I was with her was a great adventure. And her mother had been a very gifted pianist. And my mother was also a pianist and composer. And she would often play the baby grand piano in her home. And essentially I was her only audience member because she was just too shy to play publicly. But I'm telling you, her work was comparable to some of the greatest composers I've ever heard. She also could sing. We would spend nights together when she was waiting for my father to come home from the restaurant, because sometimes he was there very late, and she would keep me up, even if it was a school night, and we would sit on the couch and sing songs. And she had a beautiful voice, but that was also something else she never did in public. And I was really the only one to ever hear her sing or play the piano. And that was an interesting dilemma with her, because she seemed so confident and yet she was so vulnerable and fragile in ways. She held a lot of writing conventions at her home, and all these different kinds of women would come to our house, and that place would be filled with conversations about life, being a woman, and writing. And of course, I would listen. And my grandmother, Mary, in New Orleans, taught me how to sew on a treadmill machine. And I spent every summer with her. So I had these very close relationships with both my parents and three grandmothers. And they really influenced me a lot. And all of them were multi-talented. All of them were multifaceted people. So to me, that's just normal that they could create something, and they could be a good business person, or they could be, any number of things. And my grandmother was especially gifted. She was extremely creative. She could make something out of nothing. She was kind of like Dallas. And she would help people make their costumes and design their floats for the Mardi Gras. And the thing about a float at the Mardi Gras, as opposed to a stage or a gallery, is you have to put it together, and then when it moves and it's bumping on the road, because they have those old brick roads in New Orleans, it has to stay together. And so that was a good challenge. And anyway, I'd pick out fashions from Vogue magazine, and we would make our patterns from pieced together brown paper bags. That's, she was just like, she lived so simply, but when it came to creating, she could go anywhere. And I was basically the best dressed girl in school. Although I did get sent home a lot for being too distracting. My fashions were not always little girl fashions. So as a child, I was fascinated by caves. One of my jobs was working in the Jesse James Hideout Cave in Merrimack Caverns. Made a lot of money working there. And I used to go to Mark Twain's cave, where he played as a child. It was originally called McDougal's Cave. But when I turned 15, my family moved to the backwoods of Missouri, where I started the first girls track team at St. Clair High. And at first it was just me by myself running with the boys. And but finally we had 4 girls, which meant we could run a relay team. And that track team still exists to this day, and they have many kinds of events. But then I left home at a very young age. I jumped on a plane to LA with all my belongings in a pillowcase. The one my grandmother, Eva Metcalf, the one I was named after, taught me to needle stitch on, and that was for good luck. And for the most part, I had very good luck. And I paid for my tuition at USC by working in the costume department. So those skills that my grandmother gave me really paid off. So I did design and construction, and because of my studies at not only USC, but also at the Drama Studio of London, I have a very strong film and writing background. And this is little footage here of me with something I created, and I'm backstage. Sorry. What do you think? It's good. Huh? It's good.
Would everybody please mute themselves?
Always not.
Deborah? Thank you.
That was the. This footage is not at USC. I was way too busy at USC to be filming anything. This footage is actually backstage at a fundraiser for Pierce College Dance Department. And there I directed a piece called Earth Tribe, Dream Deer, Laughing Bear, and others. And with my help, 20 students created their own characters, designed and constructed headpieces, and simple costumes based on their ancestral heritage, which was just fascinating to direct and to learn about the students. So even as a director, I did a lot of listening, and each performed short solos to my drumming, wind chime, and clay flute music. Not that I was amazing or anything, but it was a wonderful accompaniment to the performances. And I have participated in many fundraising art activities for different organizations, including CRLA, which stands for California Rural Legal Assistance, the Heart Touch Org, and the Orange County Institute of Contemporary Art to build wells for Haiti. And I find these activities invigorating and meaningful, and it's very empowering for people other than myself to know that they can raise money by working together. And it's fun to collectively share the intention to make the world better. It does something for you. You're doing something good, but it really does a lot for you. Now, this is another piece I did called Birth of the Universe, and it was at the USC Genetic Art Gallery in 2014, and they had a big exhibit called Bridge to the Soul exhibit. And basically, these performers were inner city youth, and this lady, beautiful green crown that she made herself, was the choreographer, Beatrice Vargas, and she's sort of a famous Colombian personality. And her professional dancer was the guy, and myself. We performed for scientists, professors, students, doctors, and the surrounding community. And it was in celebration of the newest creation theory by astrophysicist Peter Higgs, who I just became obsessed with. I was just thought, this guy is so crazy smart, and I just love his theory. So then a year after this performance in 2015, Peter Higgs was awarded the Nobel Prize for his elegant and beautiful theory. So I wasn't the only one that thought he was, the greatest thing since bread. We embrace the audience with comets, stars, and nebulas that we created to give them the full experience. And I hired improv classical musicians. So instead of the dancers dancing to the music, the dancers danced and they did improv performance as well as a few practice steps. And the musicians played their music to the dance. And that was how I had done it at Earth Tribe. I designed the music to go with how the people were performing and how they were dancing. And so it's an unusual experience, not only for the performers and the musicians, but for the audience to see something that is based on the movement as opposed to movement based on the music. So it was really fun. And we utilized ribbons, organza, fabrics, yarns, and soft objects as we exploded into the audience for the finale. And the kids were wonderful at improv dancing and interaction with the audience. And we taught them timing, drama, safety, boundaries, and respect all at once. It's just natural to teach them that. And the performers were all paid, and we exited the gallery, performers and audience, with a feeling of great joy. I was awarded a Puffin grant for this performance. And the Puffin Foundation posted a video on their website as an example of what can be done. And the response to this event was overwhelmingly positive, as if the creation infected us all with joy. But I never guessed that one day I would end up here making a living doing research and collecting images for the Council of Positive Images to create an American historical documentary series titled The Shaping of America. And this was a forerunner to the Ken Burns style of documentaries. And those were all skills that I picked up from my mom. And it wasn't as if my mother taught me, this is how you do research, this is how you find things out, this is how you get your answers. I just witnessed her. I was just with her. And it was almost like by osmosis. I picked up these skills from her. And she had an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. And I guess that's either in my DNA, or I also picked that up from just hanging around with her all the time. So this is the Library of Congress, and I spent many hours there in Washington, D.C., and also at the National Archives, because the Library of Congress, they have a lot of books, but the National Archives had many more photos. So both of those were resources for the documentary. But before I was an artist, I was a crime writer. And my book was blurred by Michael Connolly. You might have heard him making some statements about the AI stealing his work recently on the news. I designed mystery conventions and panels with a group called Sisters in Crime. It was a women's crime writing group. And this first picture is me at the Mystery Writers of America booth at the Los Angeles Book Festival. And I'm hawking my book, Body on the Back Lot. And that was that year it was at USC. It used to be at UCLA, which I thought was nicer, but this was the year it was at USC. And since I went to school at USC, I could get around on that campus pretty good. And then the two lower left-hand photos are me with my book, Body on the Back Lot, at a book signing with Michael Brandman. And he's an acclaimed motion picture and television producer, screenwriter, and New York Times best-selling author. Basically, he writes the PI series with Tom Selleck, and we're there at the Mysterious Galaxy bookstore. And we had a really fun time bantering and talking back and forth. We got along really well, which I was surprised, but really it was because of my theater background, and I actually knew a lot of the same personalities that he knew because he was sort of old school. And so then, you know, that gave us a lot to talk about, and it was something we had in common. And then the one on the far right is Writing Fictional Mysteries in the Era of Alt Facts. This was a panel. I did not design this panel. I was just a person on this panel. And it was at the Pasadena Playhouse Friendship Room. And that was all part of the Pasadena Literary Festival. Now, I want to tell you, this guy, Gary Phillips, he's like the king of noir. He's like an amazingly respected author. And so is this lady, Naomi Hirahara. She's Japanese and she has a huge series and she's a prolific writer. And then there's me. I was nobody that important, but somehow I got on the panel. But I want to tell you guys that the Pasadena Playhouse Friendship Room is the most beautiful room. And I would love to do an exhibit there and then have a artist panel and have an invited, you know, audience. Oh, that would be so beautiful and classy. It was like one of the most beautiful rooms that I ever, you know, held an event in. So, okay, now here we are. This is my Mysterical E days, and I was the founder of Mysterical E. And Mysterical E is a literary journal of mystery and the mysterious, dedicated to publishing mystery stories of all types, including mysteries that cross genres. And in fact, we worked very hard to influence mystery writing so that it moved away from just clues and solving mysteries to more creative ways of using that genre. And then we would mix the noir genre in with all kinds of other things. So it was really, really a fun, creative place to be. And I founded this magazine, one of the first e-zines on the internet. And I was able to do that because you didn't have to print the magazine, and I could do that without like a huge income, without a huge amount of money behind me. And I did publish it for 5 years before I handed it over to Joe DeMarco, who was fabulous and is fabulous, and he still runs it to this day. So probably the two things I'm most proud of in this world is the St. Clair High School girls track team, which still exists to this day, and Mystical E, which still exists to this day, because those are things that I started and they still serve people and people still benefit from it. And I really believe in that. And I want to do more of that in the world. That's what I want to be about. I began writing professionally as a historical researcher for a production company in Santa Monica, and that involved to being writer-producer on The Shaping of America. It was voted, The Shaping of America was voted favorite series by the troops overseas, because those were 55-second spots. We called them mini documentaries, and we did 80 of them on American history. And they put that in the programming instead of regular commercials for the military overseas. So it was voted favorite series. I also worked for Brentwood News and Venice Art Magazine, interviewing and reviewing the work of personalities such as Dizzy Gillespie, which was an amazing experience, and Chris Conley, who is editor of Premiere Magazine. He's sort of a famous guy. I was also co-editor of Techno Noir, that should be bolded in italics, with Jeffrey Marks. He was my co-publisher, and my story Mixomatic appears in that book. And The Ticket, my first short story, was featured as Publisher's Choice in Futures Magazine, which was another literary journal, but that was a print magazine. And I do have a background in film and theater. I did leave Mystical E in 2004 to pursue my own writing and other interests. And that's when my book, Body on the Backlot, was published by Rare Bird Books. And I did receive only rave reviews. And I started off on that crime. I was looking to move into the movie industry and do all that sort of thing. And I was just about to do like a tour. That was back in the days when people did book signings and big tours in person. You would go around to all the bookstores. But my husband became very, very ill. And really, I had to make a decision between crime writing and helping my husband save his life. And so I chose my husband, and pretty much for 20 years, we were fighting for his life. And during that time, it was very important for me to have a very positive mindset, very positive emotional life, and to be present at home and to be available for my husband. And as an artist, I could be home all the time. And I did find that my art was very healing for me. And so then that would spill over and be helpful and useful in regards to taking care of my husband and having the right mindset and approach to problem solving. And there were a lot of problems. There was a lot of scary things that happened. But anyway, he's really great now. He does not have any of those issues anymore. Now we're both getting older. We have other things that we're concerned about, but that is not a problem now. So if I wanted to go back to mystery writing, which I'm not sure I would do that ever, I could, but now I'm so in love with writing, and it means so much to me. And I do like being able to be home. I don't want to travel around. I mean, I'll go to a few things out of town, but I don't want to be on the road hawking a book. I want to be home, and I live in a very beautiful place that's very nurturing to my soul. And so anyway, okay, that's very serious talk. But in general, it turns out I'm quite a bit zany. These are friends of mine. That's on the far right is Linda Jacobson. She's a well-known LA artist, and my friend Jill and one of her dancers and friend of mine, Babs. And I love to teach art workshops. This was a a workshop I did for a group called Art for All People. And I do believe in that, art for all people. I do believe that the origins of art was meant for all people, not just wealthy people or people who are educated, but all people. And we did a transformational mask workshop, and they did do costumes, and they didn't do performances, but they did present their work. And without my coaching them, they spoke so eloquently and so wonderfully about their creations. It was just, too much fun, way too much fun. So I'm really into this thing called transformational mask work. And they call it that because what happens is you put this cast plaster, the same kind of plaster that you might use if you broke your arm. It's thinner. And you put it on your face. And you have to put straws up in your nose, or maybe a straw in your mouth so that you can breathe. And it dries very quickly, so that's good. And there's something that happens to you when you pull it off your face. You use Vaseline, so it comes off pretty easily, but it takes something to pull it off your face without destroying the mask, keeping it. And then we decorate it, and then we push the mask up on our head. We wear it as a headpiece. You can't tell, but this guy here, that one was called Ancient Warrior. He's wearing that on top of his head. And what he's done for this photo that I took is he just put his head down like that. So what happens when you put your head down like that is your whole body language, everything about your physical shape changes. That's part of the transformation. And I believe people have been doing mask dancing since the beginning of time, and there's something extremely healing about it. And so I really like doing these workshops. Again, they're just like so rewarding and gratifying to do. They are a bit of work, but the results are always amazing. Everybody does breathtaking mask. It's always just, so much fun. And so this lady influenced me a lot in regard to work that she did. And she spent many, many, many years in Africa, and she was taught by many of the master artists in Africa. And as you can see, her work is lovely. She's no longer with us, but I really did admire her work and her. And I like to go on adventures with friends. Here I'm on the Metro with my friend Jill Strauss. She's a choreographer, and she's a longtime friend, over 30 years. And she's also a jazz dance instructor. We get into a lot of trouble together. I love dancing, like I really, really love it. This is another dancer. Her name is Jen Gare. She's been dancing for 30 years too, like me. So there's a group of women, we've been dancing together for 30 years. And none of us are professionals, but boy, we mean it. And I learned sort of late in life that my background is multiracial, multicultural, and I have come to really love, after doing so much research about it, the indigenous ways. And I want everyone in the world to know that all humans have indigenous ancestry. And that is a common place where all humans meet. And I think there's something very wonderful, unifying, and healing by acknowledging that. I did my first art sale at the Tarzana Chamber of Commerce in the Valley in 2002, and I sold everything. And I thought, oh, well, I guess I'm supposed to do this. That went kind of well. I am a total nature child. I live very close to nature. It's a little bit remote up here on top of the mountain. I live on a 350-acre ranch. I do not own it. I live light on the land like a Native American. I don't even know if you can call where I live a house. It's more like a structure. And my husband and I very willingly chose to keep our overhead down so that we could pursue our dreams. Me now as an artist, and he is also an author, but he's also a stone sculptor. He's very gifted at that. And it's just amazing to be in relationship with these animals and with nature. These doves, they put a nest right outside my front porch in some cactus. I don't know if you could see the cactus there in the corner. And so did this screech owl. They're just amazing. And when you bump into them, when you see them, you're just awed. It's just so lovely. But I'm not always, happy and in a state of wonder. I'm very serious at times. This is one of my early art series paintings. It's called the Haunted Heart series. And I don't know if you can tell, but basically they are empty rooms that have been lived in. And I don't think I can explain it much more because then I get too emotional, but every one of those paintings sold. I think I made a lot of them. I think I might have one or two that were kind of unusual. I have those. Thank you. I'm also a big dog lover. These are my wonderful dogs. I'm not going to stay on it too long because I don't want to start crying because none of these dogs are with me anymore. But I really love all animals. I'm an nature animal person, but I love people too. People are animals too, And I do really actually love animals. I do actually love people. I'm not a saint or anything. I'm not, like Mother Teresa, but I genuinely find human beings fascinating creatures. I also love hats. I have every variety of hat you just cannot imagine. Anything that goes on the head, I like. And see this lady here? That's not me, and that is not my mask or headpiece, but that is in the same vein of the headpieces that sit on top of the head. And then if you go like that, it really is more dramatic exhibition. But there are a couple of these that I did make and hats that I do wear. And I basically teach painting, I teach mask making workshops and privates. I go to people's homes and I teach painting or whatever they want. I am fascinated by the cosmos. Some of you might already know that. And I just do everything I can to find out the latest. I belong to all kinds of societies and things, so I get the latest photos and the latest updates on the James Webb Outer Space Telescope and the Hubble. I'm into it, and I love to hear what astrophysicists have learned lately. And I watch these long videos. And so all this creeps into my art. I'm not telling you all this just to bore you to tears about my life. I'm telling you all this crazy stuff about me because it's all in my art. It's all about who I am as an artist. This is some recent work. It's called We Are Stardust. And obviously there's a black hole. But if you look down there in the corner, you see there's this phantom image of a woman with her black hair flowing. And it's my way to try to communicate that I feel connected to the cosmos. And that's my way of being connected to God. And I have like a really intense intellectual relation and emotional and spiritual relationship with the cosmos and all the different ideas. And I'm into the cosmic wheel. This particular piece is called Flight Codex. Now it is inspired by Da Vinci drawings of flying machines. Of course, the lady in the middle and going through some kind of shape-shifting transformation, that was not Da Vinci's stuff. But I kind of, I like those drawings. So I sort of implemented them into her transformative state to communicate that she's learning to fly. And I feel that's true for me, that I am not at all accomplished in like I've arrived somewhere. I feel very much that I am becoming, and every day I want to learn something new. And that's always transformative. That actually, not to go into teaching mode here, but the brain is never really completely alive and functioning unless it's processing something new. So you're not fully alive unless you're learning something new. And I like being fully alive. I like learning new things. This piece is called Space-Time Continuance. And in this piece, I'm making an effort to communicate my ideas about how woman has been, well, you know, nobody gets born without a vagina. Do you know what I'm saying? Women they have been for a long time essential. And I used plaster. This was a technique that I was taught by an artist. Her name is Ellen Lane. I used plaster on this painting to give the feeling of a cave wall. So like I was talking to Nancy about this the other day. Recent discoveries are that the cave painters were women. It was thought they were the male shaman of no, it was women carrying their babies. They can tell by the kind of footprints that they were adjusting and making room and moving their baby while they walked across the cave floor. But because of the size of the feet, because of the size of the hands, you know, you see those paintings with all the hands on it. And so it was women that started the first art ever created. And it's actually women who started the first writing too, which that's a whole nother story. We're not going to get into that right now. So anyway, I curated my first exhibit at the Contemporary Art Gallery on Wilshire Boulevard in 2010. And this featured a stone sculpture artist, 2 fiber artists, and myself. And Justin Kim was the gallery owner. He was a Korean guy, and it was in Korea, sort of like Koreatown, but on Wilshire Boulevard. And he's a movie producer now. I would like him to get back into doing galleries, but anyway, that's it. That's me, Eva Montealegre, Southern California Women's Caucus for Art Communication Chair, and I'm also on the exhibition committee. And I'm also curating a show called Boss Ass Beasts at the Makery in March of 2024, and there will be many fabulous LA women artists in the show. And this is some other of my work. This is called Blue Moon, and it got a lot of attention. And Deep Vein is about healing deep issues and going into your deepest wounds and addressing, or your deepest illness and addressing that and patching that up and fixing that and going deep. And Bear Spirit, well, I don't think I have to explain that. And this is a series that I did early in my career after the chair paintings. It's called the Luminosity series. This particular painting is called Soma 1. And this is Soma 2. And this one is also a luminosity painting titled Coming and Going. That one has been acquired. And that's it. That's all I got.
Fabulous presentation. We know so much more about you. That was amazing.
Oh,
And we can take questions now.
Yes. Some people want to know about selling art or some of the things I mentioned, you know, like, well, I think most artists have a connection to their art that they know is an expression of their deeper selves.
Can I just say that I just am blown away by all the different things you have achieved so much in. And I want to blame it on your family and growing up in New Orleans. And I don't know what you want to blame it on, but I just think that it's remarkable the different things that you've done and to the extent that you've been able to do them. And so it's just fascinating.
Thank you.
I have to share my excitement about the kind of artist you are. And yes, I was very impressed that you came from art and people and where you lived. I had the opposite. I mean, being an artist was bizarre and difficult and almost impossible. And I didn't really follow through until I was 70 years old. I dropped it at 19 because you're supposed to get married in my generation and be a mother and make hors d'oeuvres that are interesting. So that's what I did. So you represent to me, I mean, I don't know you, but everything I've learned about you here is so impressive to me. But the most impressive thing is I'm an artist and I think I'm pretty good, but I work from subjects. I paint what I see. I paint a person or a nude body or vases and flowers. I don't know how, and I haven't really used my imagination the way you do. I just am envious of it, and I love that bear one particularly. Your drawing ability was thrown into something also very loose, and I just loved it. And I am admiring of you and the charming look of your work and the thoughtfulness of it. I'm just very taken with you, and a little jealous. And this is a pleasure. I'm so glad I took the time. I was painting today in New Orleans. There's a New Orleans group that I joined, and I'm playing around with pastels, which I haven't done in 5 years. So, but on Thursdays I go to New Orleans. So thank you. I don't have a question. I'm just going to listen, but I'm enthused as hell about you as a person, and I would take a mask making workshop with you. I just love your imagination. Thank you.
Well, hopefully we'll offer that. I'll get right to you, Stacy, in a second. Hopefully we'll offer that in some venue that is appropriate. But what I want to say to you, Carol, is I did go to some art schools besides just Robert Kingston, and I didn't think they were that encouraging, really. And so then I designed a painting class where the whole foundation is based on joy. And instead of teaching a bunch of techniques to my students, I listen to them, and then we start their process of painting from inside how they're feeling that day. Usually we take 4 meetings minimum for a piece. So I come to their house once a week for an hour and help them develop their idea. And I do have lots of techniques that I give them once they tell me what they're trying to accomplish, but I don't teach them the techniques and then say, now paint something. No, we start from inside their heart. So there are ways to do and accomplish that which you would like to accomplish. And I would be very honored to help you do that. And it's amazing for me as well as for the student. I have a student now, her whole house is filled with paintings, and she could be an artist in a gallery. But she's very wealthy. She has no desire to do that. But I'm like, oh man, we could do a show with your work. So easy. So I thank you for appreciating me, and I would love to work with you, and I hope I get the opportunity to do
It's a
so.
pleasure for me. Thank you. Where do you live? Where is your home?
I live in Topanga,
Oh,
about
you are? Oh,
north of LA.
yeah.
So,
I'm a Valley girl.
oh, that's not far. I go to the Valley all the time. Okay, we'll talk more. Hey, Stacy, what do you got?
Hi. Well, I just wanted to say I'm glad I got to see a little bit of your presentation, and I'm always struck by the spiritual component of it, plus these really bold colors and striking images. And I just really am glad that you were able to, share some of the larger things and more of the things that you do with us. I just really enjoyed that. So thanks for doing that. And hopefully we will have venues to be sharing and teaching and workshopping, because I think that would be wonderful as a group, but also to offer to a larger audience.
Yeah, it would be fun to do it just with the SWCA members, but it would also be fun to reach out into a community. And that group of young dancers who did the Birth of the Universe, when I met them, they were learning how to ballet dance on a concrete floor in Hollywood. And it was just heartbreaking for me. And they were also dedicated and they were working so hard. But because of all the attention they got at USC and, and then the Peter Higgs won the Nobel Prize. So then, I don't know who it was, somebody bought them a beautiful wooden bouncy dance floor, and they've all continued to develop, and, it makes me very happy. And, we can do that. SWCA can do that. We can change the world. Let's change the world.
Eva. I would have said at 6:50 that I know you, but man, I wasn't even close to knowing you, and now I know a little bit more, and I'm so excited to do more things with you. and bring more of your talent to SCWCA and to the SCWCA audience and to the Los Angeles audience. And very exciting. You have stimulated me, and I'm so glad that I was here, and thank you for sharing your experience and all of your history. And I had no idea. Thank you very much.
Well, I have to thank Sandra Mueller because she said, well, what do you want to talk about? I said, well, I don't know. I'm very good at selling art, and everybody, every artist should have the pleasure of selling their art, not just to make money. Yeah, okay, we all want to make money, but there's a very amazing thing that happens to you when somebody wants your art in their home and will pay you money for it, even if it's a very small amount of money. It almost doesn't matter how much it is. It's about that exchange and that bond. Really, it's similar to when you write a book and somebody takes the time to read a book, and so they get to, when somebody wants your art in their home, that is such a deep compliment, and they want a piece of you, they want a part of you. And so I was going to just talk about selling art, but Sandra said, no, we don't want to just to be the purveyor of your artwork or the person who teaches people how to sell art. Let us get to know who you are. And so that's has a lot to do with how I designed the PowerPoint presentation and what things I talked about. I just thought, well, I'll just, let them get to know me a little bit.
Yeah, you can save that other thing for the Saturday Salon.
That's right.
I think that what I've discovered, and you're reminding me, is that selling my art is one thing. I've also enjoyed giving my art away to people. That just going, like, if I made something recently and I'm just going to give it to the person that I made the art for. And it's, even that is, just to know that they smile, and maybe it's a little person, little girl, and she pins it up on her wall, whatever she decides to do with it, that's fills me too with joy.
Yeah, I have done that. It's very rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah, I agree with both of you. It's very cathartic knowing that a piece of you, because it is a piece of you, is going to be living with someone else, and they're going to be loving it and enjoying it as much as you did when you created it. So you're both very right with that. It's an amazing feeling.
Mm.
They might even love it more than you do.
They might.
Right.
Absolutely.